Tonight on News 5 Live, 4 days after he went missing, the body of Jesswant Brooks is fished out of some mangroves at mile 4 on the George Price Highway. The 18-year-old's body had an injury to the back of the head. Alaric is shot and runs from the gunman, but his body is discovered 2 hours later face down in muddy water in the south side. Opposition leader John Briceño says payment for Joshua Perdomo's loan was made due to public outrage, but he says not all has been collected. Blacklisting of Belize is lifted by the EU, and 5 years after stepping down as executive director of SATIM, Greg Chuck becomes the second person of Maya descent to be called to the bar. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
Smart customers, this is your chance to win big with Smart.
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Friday, November 8th. I am Charlie Hutchinson. Missing teen Jesswant Brooks has been found. He was murdered and dumped in some shallow waters in a patch of mangroves off the George Price Highway. As we've reported, 18-year-old Brooks went missing on Monday morning after he left home and was later seen riding his bike on Police Street. His family has been searching all week for him after they received reports that he had been killed and discarded off in the Burden Creek. There were multiple reports after 9 this morning that Brooks's body was found, but those reports turned out to be false. It wasn't until around 2 this afternoon that his decomposing body was discovered. Reporter Andrea Polanco tells us more in the following story.
4 days after he went missing, the decomposing body of 18-year-old Jesswant Brooks was found in some shallow water and mangroves at mile 4 off the George Price Highway. Just before 2 this afternoon, the police received a call about a body, and by 2:30, family, friends, and onlookers gathered along the highway as Coast Guard, police, and scenes of crime personnel made their way over in a boat to retrieve that body. Superintendent Alejandro Cayo was on the scene.
We got assistance with the Coast Guard and we managed to fish out the body from the mangrove where it was identified as by the family members as that of the missing person, Jesswant Brooks.
Okay, what sort of injuries? Was there anything visible, any visible signs of injuries he suffered?
Yes, there was an injury that was noted at the back of his head.
Do you guys know from what specific weapon?
No, I cannot tell you at this moment. We have to wait for the postmortem, which will be done tomorrow morning.
Jesswant Brooks was killed and dumped off the highway. It is a painful end to what has been an emotional 4 days for the Brooks family. Hours before his body was found, Kent Brooks broke down in tears this morning.
Anything you want to see if you do, he want to do it, right? You tell him go buy. You could tell him go buy, he go in and come back. You could tell him anything, any really work he got wrong for do, he can't do it, man. He don't know a bad person. And there's chance might be out of life.
Brooks got a call around 9:30 this morning about a body floating in the Burden Creek at mile 6 on the George Price Highway. The family has been searching in that area since earlier this week. They had received reports that Jesswant had been murdered and dumped in the creek. The authorities searched on Thursday and this morning, but they didn't find a body.
I'll come out to identify if not him, you know? Because we don't get one report saying that about the bridge and they dump the body, so as I get the information, I just come out and check, see.
It wasn't until this afternoon that they found Jesswant Brooks's body, about 1.5 miles from where they were searching. So who killed Jesswant Brooks and why? Kent Brooks says that he has no idea, but there are allegations that his son's disappearance may be connected to another crime. He says that the last time he saw his son alive was on Monday morning.
About 10-30 minutes to 11, he left say going to buy on Police Street marijuana, and from since that time, no show back, and he's another type of person, you know.
What do you believe happened to your son?
Well, I know we just hear, you hear all kind of things from the street, you know, so, but I just say that, you know, hope that maybe I could find her living.
What are some of the reports you've heard?
I hear them beat up and dump on in a river, you know, but if not so, I just want to find the body, you understand?
Laverne Oliveira was on the scene when her nephew's body was discovered. She says that they are thankful for the closure because the past days have been tough on the family. She believes that the body was placed in that area for the family to find it.
We thank God that we get the body, make we go and closure. But all the while we do work with Mr. Spark. Because we never have nobody for help. We go on a station and they say, you have to be a missing person, so we decide to call him and ask him, please help we. Me, he, and the rest of some of my family, they out there, along with the police there, all yesterday. And we passed right here. And to my belief, if that body me there yesterday, we must may see that body me the float there. That body, I to my belief, because the way how I say I swell up there, we may have to say, because we drive slow. We really chrome the area, chrome all there, and we not see nothing.
So you believe someone put it there?
I believe that it just come there.
They wanted you guys to find it?
They want between last night and sometime this morning that just can't. Because we come here, we don't find nothing.
The police say that it appears that Jesswant Brooks was killed the day that he went missing. Superintendent Cayo shares more about the investigation. Sir, is it believed that he was murdered that same day that he went missing?
There is a possibility because of the state of the body, which was how it was found, no?
The area where he was found, is that an area that you've searched before?
No, we were not in that area. We were on the opposite side of the highway because we had received information that possibility that the body was by the Borden Canal or by Cisco.
What has the investigation showed so far as to why Jesswant went missing?
Well, we have spoken to several persons and we know that he is a person that has any record and does not mingle with anybody. The reason why he went missing and what happened to him is something that we are yet to find out exactly as to what happened.
There are many different theories around on the street. I'm sure you heard some of them. Maybe a possible connection to another crime that was committed. Was he ever a person of interest in anything that you've investigated?
No, his name has never been called out to any investigation, but we know about that rumor and we are following also that lead.
Jesswant Brooks, from all accounts, was an easygoing young man. His family says that he stayed out of trouble. Today, his aunt told us that it appears that he was shot to the back of the head, but a post-mortem needs to be conducted to confirm that. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
29-year-old Alaric was shot after 8 o'clock on Thursday night, but his lifeless body was not found until 2 hours later in the south side of the city. Carcamo was visiting with friends on Raccoon Street Extension when he was ambushed by a masked gunman. He ran for his life but succumbed on Fire Lane where his body was located. 2 persons are being questioned, one known to him. Here is News 5's Dwayne Moody with a report.
The Raccoon Street Extension area has been relatively quiet when it comes to gun violence on the south side of Belize City. But on Thursday night, the life of 29-year-old Alaric Carcamo ended when he was shot by a masked man around 8:30 p.m. Carcamo, who residents say lives in the area of Neil Penn Road, was socializing with a group of persons when the gunman, wearing a Halloween mask, brazenly walked through a property and took aim squarely at him. He then escaped towards the end of Raccoon Street Extension.
Man get shot, right? And then I just come back from carry something and I come back and I'm home. And they shot the man. The only thing I know when they tell me they shot him.
Did you know him? Did he frequent this area?
No, he not frequent stay around, yeah, but he just come around and come heal one of his friend. And when they come heal a friend, I think they follow a trail and then they shot him.
3 shots were fired. One caught the deceased in the left side of the abdomen. Even as he was injured, Carcamo ran to Fire Lane off Raccoon Street Extension. Residents in the area began searching for him, but to no avail. It was not until 2 hours later, around 10:30, that his body was discovered face down in waist-high muddy water to the extreme corner of an open lot on Fire Lane.
They searched for him after one time everything done. What? I said I should have never bring it out, you know. That's why I made no. I should have never bring it out. I should have wait till the man goes somewhere else and then they do it, you understand?
Alaric wasn't found until maybe like 2 hours after the incident happened?
2 hours after, yeah.
This morning, investigators were back in the area as it is suspected that surveillance cameras along Raccoon Street Extension may have captured the gunman, believed to be a teenager. News 5 understands that at least 2 persons are in custody pending further investigation into this latest homicide. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
Belize has been removed from the list of non-cooperative jurisdictions following a meeting of the Economic and Financial Affairs Council of the European Union, which was held in Brussels today. The change came after the recent amendment to International Business Act, as well as the promulgation of the Economic Substance Act of October. The government says that it will continue to engage with EU officials and the international business and financial services sector to ensure additional technical issues are addressed. PM Barrow has welcomed the decision, signaling GOB's willingness to modernize the international tax framework. Today, we also got a reaction from PUP leader John Briceño.
It was about time, and as I mentioned in the House, This is the third time that we've tried to try to correct what was wrong with the legislation, or what was asked of us by the European countries, not the EU, European Union. But even this that was passed, there's still some sections that need to be corrected. During the debate, I brought it up, and the Prime Minister's point was that he's trying to do everything possible to get Belize off the blacklist, and that is why they had to pass it even with the errors. So I'm happy that it's finally got it there, but we still have a few corrections to do with the legislation.
The ruling United Democratic Party is gearing up to select its new leader, and the process is causing a major rift within the party. Belmopan Area Representative John Saldivar is going up against the Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber. Faber launched his campaign in September with support from members of the party's central executive and others. Saldivar, however, had a massive showing on Sunday which saw the support of many of his colleagues, including Michael Finnegan, the former campaign manager of Faber, and Gaspar Vega from Orange Walk North. There is already a noticeable rift between Faber and Saldivar through comments made at public events and social media. Whoever emerges as leader will go against the PUP's John Briceño, who had a piece of advice for Belizeans watching the UDP political spar.
The only advice I would give to our Belizeans, buy your popcorn and enjoy the show, because some of it is going to be nasty, some of it is going to be funny, but at the end of the day, whosoever the UDP decide that they want to lead them to the next election, to us it does not matter. We believe that the people have decided already on this government that they are corrupt and they are incompetent. One of their very own said that they are corrupt. So it's not an issue of me saying that. People want something different. People want hope. People want people with competence. Belizeans want people with a vision in how we're going to make lives better for Belizeans, and I think that the People's United Party represents that. So I'm going to buy my popcorn, I'm going to enjoy the show, and whosoever they decide that they want to put as leader, it's irrelevant to us.
Orange Walk North Area Representative Gaspar Vega continues to enjoy all allowances made available to him by the government of Belize, despite no longer being assigned a portfolio. Since he was stripped of his ministerial responsibilities amid a land scandal involving his son back in 2016, Vega maintains 24-hour police presence at his Clark Street address in Orange Walk Town. That around-the-clock security measure is reserved for the Prime Minister and his deputy, a post Vega has held twice since 2008. News 5 understands that as many as 4 officers, each on rotation, are stationed at his residence. Likewise, it is said that the former Deputy Prime Minister still receives a stipend for telephone usage as well as other benefits. Of note is that while Vega has been noticeably absent from all House meetings dating back to 2017, Standing Order 84 states that action can only be taken against a parliamentarian should that individual miss a total of 6 consecutive meetings within a 3-month period. Thus far, there have never been 6 back-to-back House meetings within that interval, and as such, Vega remains in compliance with the rules of the House. Still is collecting salary and other allowances that add up to a pretty package. As for his chances of running for office for a 4th term in Orange Walk North, there is still no certainty of his political ambitions going forward. Suffice to say that he has expressed an interest in becoming active in that constituency once again.
Actually, I had met with him. He had stopped in one afternoon at the building where I am at St. Mark's Street, and he spoke to me very briefly, and if I can recall what he said was that he was proposing to become much more politically active, which I thought was a good thing. He's a young man, he has a lot of competence, he spent a lot of time with those people. He wants to assist, he wants to continue to assist the nation, and so I thought it was a good gesture on his part.
But did you get the sense
obligation to try to keep this jewel pristine and safe?
But did you get the sense from him that he would be offering himself for candidacy once again?
We didn't speak long enough. He told me he was going to become active in the constituency and the like, but the specific question as to whether he himself was putting himself forward, we didn't reach that extent.
It is notable to me that he intentionally stopped in to visit you, though. No, because in the past, of course, he's been deputy leader of the party. Perhaps he's trying to pitch in for a leader now that Dean Barrow is leaving.
I don't know. He didn't make any pitch to me for support for leadership, but he and I have always been cordial.
Opposition leader John Briceño has also commented on the re-emergence of Gaspar Vega, his political opponent in the north. Vega appeared on Sunday in support of John Saldivar at Saldivar's launch for the bid to the UDP leadership. As we said, there is speculation that Vega might be making a comeback, and Briceño says he is waiting for his comeback.
He knows, and everybody knows, that he was campaigning vigorously for the British Council, and he lost badly. So when he said, well, you know, that UP won all the village councils, I think he's telling you that, in effect, that he's not going to run. Because Gaspar Vega is a coward, Gaspar Vega does not want to lose, so he will not run. But we want him to run, so that we can beat him whenever we call the next general election.
Coming up, well-known Maya leader Greg Chuck is called to the bar, and we'll have more from the leader of the opposition. At the Supreme Court this morning, the well-known former executive director of SATIM, Gregory Chuck, was called to the bar. Chuck gained national prominence for his work to promote the rights of the Mayas and his fight against oil exploration. His views to advance the indigenous people pitted him against the government to the point where it seemed that the fight was personal. In the NGO community, he was first named 13th senator, but never served since GOB had a change of heart when he was selected. Now he has obtained a law degree and is hanging his shingles. Here is News 5's Isani Cayetano.
Since stepping down as executive director of the Sarstun Tamash Institute for Indigenous Management, SATIM, in August 2014, Greg Chuck has been pursuing a law degree at the University of the West Indies.
Yes, I have been accepted to law school. It's a personal decision that I have taken in consultation with the leaders of these communities. They have given me their trust to lead them, and it's only right that I consult with them in decisions that even those that are personal to me. When I decide to go, there will be someone that will rise to the challenge to continue to honor the legacy of resistance of our ancestors.
5 years later, and he's only the second individual of Mayan ancestry to be welcomed into the legal fraternity. This morning, Chuck was formally called to the bar.
I feel extremely honored and privileged to be a part of the cadre of professionals. As I said earlier in my presentation, it wasn't like a dream as many had, but I am satisfied and happy that I made a decision to pursue this profession.
Now, Greg, you stepped aside as the executive director of SATIM at a very critical time to pursue a law degree. What does this now mean for the continued struggle of the indigenous community in the South?
In similar way, I worked with the communities prior to going to study law. They will have to be the one to determine whether or not I play a role in the work that I started that is ongoing.
Insofar as what is taking place in the South and the fact that perhaps more and more there's a call for representation at the legal level and otherwise, will you still be actively involved in being able to represent the concerns of the broader community of the South?
Absolutely. That is the intent. I hope to return to Punta Gorda and set up my shingles and carve up my space because that's the area that I'm much familiar with. So yes, I will be returning there and provide my services to the members of the public in the South.
There to provide moral support through his personal and professional journey to becoming an attorney at law was Chuck's family. His wife and his indisposed mother remained at his side throughout his pursuit.
It wasn't easy. Having an ailing mom, not having an income, there were times when I had second thought about the decision I took, but failure was not an option for me. As you may be aware, and you've been covering my work over the last 2 decades, that when I depart Belize, it was much publicity regarding my departure. and I'm sure that had I failed, there would have been the same amount of publicity that my departure attracted. So I had to redouble my effort, my commitment, my studies, and having a family home who gave me their emotional support while I was away. Taking care of my ailing mom really assist me in the emotional strength I needed to continue my studies. It's not easy. It's a really difficult undertaking.
Chalk returns to Punta Gorda, where he will be establishing his practice. Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
In the courtroom of Justice Colin Williams, the case of 45-year-old Albert Martinez concluded. He was spared jail time after taking a guilty plea to the lesser charge of causing death by careless conduct in that fatal traffic accident that took the life of 6-year-old Ashanti Pollard. Martinez, who had originally been indicted for manslaughter by negligence, pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of causing death by careless conduct after the prosecution amended the original charge. In course of the proceedings, Martinez expressed remorse for causing the death of Pollard. Justice Williams fined him $3,000, which he has to pay by next year, September. Ashanti Pollard's father, Sayon Pollard, gave a reaction after exiting the court at the end of today's trial.
That don't sound fairly because the judge didn't say anything about his license, and he never gave full details of the amount. I think that's not really justice. It's partial. It's not fair to me.
What would you have liked to see? Can you share with us?
Well, his license should be terminated because this is supposed to be the second trial that he knocked down, not the first. And more justified manner, the judge should have carried out.
Talk to us about Ashanti. At the time of her death, did she, at the time of the incident, did she die right away?
She died on the spot. As the impact, she get hit, she died. I was at the scene after, but the doctor said that she died. I said, no. It was really tragic, and so she never suffered the pain really, but
and how has
mother suffered the pain most.
Okay, how has the loss of her affected your family?
It affected me a lot, and so, but mostly my son, because he still acts for her sister, and that bothered me a lot.
The fatal accident occurred on February 26, 2017. Martinez was driving a Toyota Corolla car reportedly under the influence of alcohol on Farmers Road Extension in Belize City when he knocked down and killed Ashanti Pollard. Pollard was walking with her mother, Dawn Swayze, when they were struck. Pollard died on the spot while her mother received minor injuries. In court, Martinez was unrepresented while Crown Counsel Portia Stain Ferguson prosecuted the case. After public outrage peaked, the Cabinet Secretary Carlos Perdomo on October 31st announced that the $40,000 debt owed by Joshua Perdomo, his son, had been paid. This is after the government wrote off the loan, citing that Perdomo could not be located. Perdomo was to return to Belize after his study leave, but did not and settled in the U.S., where he is now working. A release from the Perdomo family stated that, quote, at the time of the signing of the bond many years ago, it was expected that it would be repaid if the terms of the agreement were not fulfilled. With this in mind, my family thought it was the right thing to do, unquote. Leader of the opposition, John Briceño, says the debt is more than just $40,000.
That the entire country had to go through this trauma of where people were outraged that here is a young man that was given an opportunity to be able to go and study and come back to Belize. And he never did come back and refused to pay the bond. It is only because of the outrage from the public that then the family members decided to pay the $40,000. But when you think about it, it is more than just the $40,000. Why? Well, simply because no interest was paid on the $40,000, one. Two, when Mr. Perdomo was away studying, he collected 80% of his salary. And three, somebody had to be paid to do his work whilst he was away. So when you combine everything, it is more than $40,000 that was spent on a gentleman that took our money, went abroad, studied, and refused to come back to Belize.
And since the government was quick to write off the Joshua Perdomo loan, the People's United Party is calling on the Barrow administration to do the same for hundreds of financially challenged students. The PUP points to the recent statement from the University of Belize, where 100 students are at risk of being deregistered.
If the Prime Minister is prepared to write off $40,000 for a privileged UDP, a UDP that has access to a lot of money, then here we have thousands of students that are struggling to be able to pay their student loan. That after graduating, they find it difficult to be able to get a loan. To get a job that would be able for them to be able to pay their loan. So we're saying, well, Mr. Prime Minister, if you're so kind in writing off for Mr. Perdomo, then let us write it off for all of these students that are struggling right now to pay their student loan.
On October 26th, a statutory instrument signed by Minister of Natural Resources Hugo Pat was gazetted. Through that SI, the government extended the most recent land tax amnesty. The amnesty gave landowners who owe land taxes time to settle their debts beginning December 1st. The SI extends the deadline to June 1st instead of April 7th, granting wealthy landowners an additional month and 3 weeks. The program has raised eyebrows because it benefits persons who own large parcels of land instead of small landowners who are struggling to pay taxes. Opposition leader John Briceño says that the government could have gone a different path. He says that the government should have taken back lands in place of taxes owed.
There are different ways that you could have done this. Maybe small landowners, could be given an amnesty so that we could help them to be able to make their payments. But these huge landowners that own lands in thousands of acres, I don't think we should give them that same amnesty. Because what we can do, we did it when I was the Minister of Natural Resources, was we could have called them in and tell them, you owe so much money, you have all of this land that you're not using, so we are going to take land in lieu of taxes. So we should be able to find a way how we can help the small landowners. But these huge landowners, I don't think we should give them the amnesty. I think we should use that opportunity to be able to get land back in the hands of the Belizean people by taking, okay, you owe so much money in taxes, we can get so many acres of land in lieu of those taxes.
Would you be willing to give up land? I don't know if you owe taxes for land, but if that were the case, would you be willing to subject yourself to something like that as you're proposing?
Well, first of all, I don't own those kinds of huge tracts of land. But if I was a big landowner and I have all of this land, I have no other option. I either find the money to pay for it or to be able to give back land to government in lieu of the taxes that I owe.
I think your opponents have said probably not you, but your family does.
No, actually, my family does not. They do not own large. They had a lot of land that they buy from BSI when BSI was transferring the cane lands to the farmers. And my family, they took advantage of that, and they own a lot of land. But most of that land was sold by the banks. Actually, my brother and I, we bought one of those parcels from the Belize Bank.
Every Thursday for the past year, Belize City youth have been converging at the community basketball court in Belama Phase 2 for the Ball is Life tournament. The tournament, however, was suspended on Thursday night after a player realized that the basketball rim and backboard had disappeared. The rims and boards were removed by the Belize City Council, and a press release states that the UDP standard bearer for Freetown, Orson Ellerington, did not request the use of the basketball court, as all organizers are required to do. The council says that Orson removed the rims and backboards last week, which prevented any use of that court by the community. The city council wrote to Elrington and later granted him permission, provided garbage cleanup for his event, and advised him to seek the council's permission for any other activities. The release says that the council has no official request on file that Elrington intended to use this basketball court yet again. Elrington says that the council is waging war against the youth of Freetown. But in the not-too-distant past, Elrington was at the core of a similar situation in the Caribbean shores, where rims were also removed, affecting a tournament there as well. On Thursday night, player Melbourne Wade said that the political battle between Elrington and the council is affecting the youth.
This is what they did, take down our rim, our backboards, so that the youth of the Freetown constituency and all different kind of constituency, because it's a big tournament. We got 120 participating youths that come out every Thursday night to enjoy a nice game. If you notice, the youth are not happy about the situation, right? And tonight it was a special night for the tribute of one of our captain for one of the team, Mr. Baptist, that passed away on Sunday. So we are pleading with the city council, not telling them that they are not knocking out bread out of people's mouth. They are knocking down a youth program from what we are constructive, positive things in the youths. Because we not only do basketball out there. The youth, they come out there, we interact, we teach them different things, how to live and how to be a team player. Actually, to come out here and enjoy a nice Thursday night, instead of they out there idle themselves, they could go out here and get positive things through basketball. Mr. Urson is just a sponsor, one of the prime sponsors for this tournament. This tournament is a community. The court has get done, painted by a community. It's not just, a politics where they play, so we have to do this and do that. This is a community thing. The people have come out and supported for the past year. This is the second annual tournament. And all about the football field, if you can see, they are saying that the maintenance of this thing. They cut down the post from across the football, and the football field is very bushy, snake, rat, all kind of thing in the people yard, because they don't maintain it. And they put some big boulders in the middle of the field so that the youth they can't go play football on Sunday. Because if on Sunday out is full, youth then come play and leave football and go home and relax. But I see that the city council are playing politics with our tournament.
After the break, agencies join forces to ensure food and nutrition security. A parliamentary forum on food and nutrition security for a healthy Belize took place today in Belize City. Members of the Belize Parliamentary Alliance Against Hunger and Malnutrition gathered to discuss policies and legislation to advance and achieve the objectives of the committee. The Ministry of Agriculture has launched school gardens in several schools across the country. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education is planning to scale up school feeding in Belize, as well as ensuring that school children are fed at least one healthy meal a day. The Ministry of Health is focusing on the promotion of wellness and prevention of malnutrition in Belize. The forum was attended by House Speaker Laura Tucker Longsworth and Agriculture Minister Godwin Hulse, along with members of the opposition party.
The presentations highlight the direction in which we need to go. And so it has to do, for instance, with laws that we can enforce to ensure, for instance, that schools give proper nutrition. Schools ban sugar-sweetened drinks from around the schools that's making children unhealthy. But it takes us further. It looks to what exactly it is that the country needs. Do we need a bigger law to really look at food and nutrition security, which would include farmers and farming and stuff like that?
I am happy that we have been able to pull this outside of the political realm. As you see, there's adequate representation from the opposition. My colleagues, Honorable Mai, and everybody are here, Honorable Cordell Hyde, because we want a buy-in into this. This can't be a UDP, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health thing. This has to be Belizean children eating healthy, growing healthy, etc. There is an election. The schools will be closed on that day because they use the school. But the next day, children get back to life, no matter who's in government, and we want this to roll on.
In November, sports enthusiast and former footballer Carlos Charlie Slusher was appointed a new director of the National Anti-Doping Organization, NADO, which was suspended from the Regional Anti-Doping Organization following the Brandon Cattouse fiasco. Since then, NADO has been getting back on track, and today a two-day workshop focusing on the goals of NADO concluded. According to Slusher, the training session featured more than 15 participants committed to advancing the work of the organization.
We simply have to be able to handle our own affairs as an anti-doping organization. Simple Water said that. Like I said, in the past, it was a one-man show and just a shell. And we all know about all the issues that happened in the past because of that problem. So Water said, no, hey, you got to get your house in order, basically. So this entire year have been focusing on getting the anti-doping organization of Belize fully functioning and where we can handle our own affairs from beginning to end. And we have, yesterday we had like 18, today we have about 16 people, and yeah, so it's been very, it's been, I really say, a success when you look at the level of people that have attended, when you talk within the expertise as being liars and senior liars and young liars, and you know, it's really, the organization is very appreciative of them taking the time of the business schedule to be with us.
When we come back, KHMH celebrates World Radiology Day.
It is very important for drivers
International Radiology Day is being celebrated today across the world. In Belize, the Carl Huesner Memorial Hospital, which counts for the largest number of employees attached to a radiology unit, commemorated the day with a display and a walkthrough of the facility. Now, imaging is a critical part for medical diagnosis and is done to support surgeons prior to medical operations in the theater. This year, the theme for radiology celebrations is centered around sports injuries. News 5 stopped in at the KHMH and spoke with head radiologist Dr. Barnaby Carrillo.
Anybody that goes to any hospital nowadays have to pass through imaging or in some way or the other. It's very important to make clinical decisions. For example, nobody nowadays gets a surgery without doing some sort of imaging, right? It can avoid a surgery or it helps in planning a surgery, for example. It's also important in patients that, for example, have cancer to follow up to see how they're reacting to the medicine, right? So those are some of the applications that imaging has in modern healthcare today. Normally, patients are referred from their primary physician or from other specialties. They come here, the first person they meet is normally a secretary. So they make an appointment. Sometimes it's urgent, so it can be otherwise. They can call us directly and send the patient right away. So it all depends on what type of patient we're dealing with.
Dr. Barnaby Carrillo also spoke about the misconceptions about radiology and the effects that it can have on patients.
It's real that some of the imaging techniques that we use involve radiation and then it can have a negative effect on the body if it's not used properly. But we are trained here to use it in a proper way, right? So if they come here, they have to feel confident that we know what we're doing and we're using it for their benefit and not to harm them. It involves several persons, right? They consist of many healthcare professionals. They have the radiologist, which is a doctor that is trained in interpreting images. They have the radiology tech, who actually trains in using the equipment, positioning patients, and taking the images. Then they have nurses also that deal with the administration of medicine and care after certain procedures. Then they have the biomedical engineers that are in charge of maintaining the equipment. They have the physicists, and then ancillary staff like the secretaries that work along with us.
Stay tuned, there's much more news after the break. Ground was broken on Thursday morning in the Billy White community, Cayo, where a new preschool will be constructed in the months ahead. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education Patrick Faber, along with Cayo Central Area Representative Rene Montero, attended a brief ceremony at the proposed site where the kindergarten will be erected. It is part of an ongoing initiative by the Ministry of Education to build more preschools across the country.
Today we are here again in Cayo, but this time we did El Progreso, Esperanza, and of course here in Billy White. And it's a very wonderful feeling. Most of these projects are preschools, but as you have heard me say, preschool education, early childhood education is for us a big priority because it allows for our children to get a very, very strong start. And we believe that if we continue along this path, that we will eventually get to the stage of having more successful or higher quality of education, if you will, later on, because our children would have had a very strong foundation. I am pleased once again to place on record our gratitude to the Caribbean Development Bank for their support in helping us to realize these projects. But I'm also very grateful to the local area leaders in these villages, especially, who have worked tirelessly to help us to prepare identify the sites, prepare the sites, consult with the stakeholders. All of that has been a process, a part of the process, and we are very, very happy that we are at this stage.
I am so happy that this was one of my dreams that come true, and I have 2 children. One is in school, and the next one will be here to the preschool, and they will. That for them, the ones that they are coming for 3-4 years, they will be using the preschool, and I hope that everybody happy with the preschool that we are going to have.
As you may know by now, last March, the Department of Environment announced that a phase-out of single-use plastics and styrofoam. Once that phase out is over, there will be no importation of items, and if you are found with those items in your possession, you can be charged. As we've reported over the past year, there are alternatives to plastics and styrofoam in Belize. There are a growing number of businesses producing or importing biodegradables. The conversation of single-use plastic and styrofoam ban legislation took center stage on Thursday night at the Belize for the Film Festival Week. The festival featured environmental and conservation films, and to extend that conversation, they held a panel discussion called Green Globe for Fostering a Green Belize in the 21st Century. Among the topics discussed were stoning coral tissue loss, disease, sargassum, and single-use plastic and styrofoam ban. Here's a snippet of the conversation with businesses working with biodegradables and the challenges they face in the business.
Price is pretty much one of the main factors. There is no way that we can present a product in the market that would be cheaper than styrofoam. We looked around and there's many alternatives, but we will not be able to compete. So that is one of the issues. Another one, hopefully that with the new whenever the regulation is passed in Belize, that we also would be getting at least a tax break in the importation or other incentives. Because at this time, for example, importing biodegradables, we pay a higher duty than actually styrofoam pays. Some of the styrofoam products are actually zero rated, and biodegradable disposables pay up to 20%.
But the biggest barrier to what I do is really the size of the market, right? Because Belize, with a small population like this, to be honest, my manufacturing facility does not support it wouldn't make sense for what I do, because it wouldn't be enough. The machines need to work 24 hours a day to justify its investment return. There's no way in Belize, especially right now, but that's the reason why I think if you do what I do, I think you should look at a much more broader market, right? Because like for me, I look at Mexico as one of my biggest market, and you know, Mexico being 120 million people, I mean, even at 1% of these guys use biodegradable, you know, that's going to be way exceed what my capacity will do, right?
Benque Viejo police received $60,000 worth of surveillance cameras. The donation was made by a security tech company called Belize View, and the technology and infrastructure for the project was developed by its sister company called Alternative Networks. A total of 14 cameras were handed over to the Benque Police, which will be connected to one local network that will be monitored and recorded by the police and Belize View. Here's more from today's handing over ceremony in Benque.
Crime-fighting strategies are many. The introduction of surveillance camera is being activated by the Benque Viejo Police Formation in an effort to combat crime and ensure public safety. The installation of surveillance camera at strategic locations within Benque Viejo town serve as a deterrent as it relates to criminal activities. These cameras will allow us to monitor specific areas of interest. Human resources are always a challenge. These cameras are twofold. It can either be used in place of our police officers or additionally to our police. Criminology theory suggests potential offenders are less likely to commit crime if they believe they are being watched or have a greater risk of being apprehended. However, they must be aware that they are being watched. The handing over of these cameras today will create awareness to the general public. We are hoping that the system will increase perception of safety among citizens, as well as encourage citizens to use public spaces they know are guarded by surveillance.
The cameras that are being used are real high-tech cameras. They're Hikvision, you can research it, you can Google it. So we can safely say that Belize is at par with any of the greater nations, the bigger developed nations, in respects to technology and cameras. So what we're doing is we're really stepping up in technology so that Belize can be there. And we can be proud of the fact that wherever you are, those cameras will detect you. They have the capability of detecting license plates. They have the capability of detecting facial recognition and so much more. They have infrared, so even though it's dark with a little speck of light, it can make sure that your face is visible.
The donation is only one part of the project that seeks to work with the police to install cameras across municipalities. A total of 12 cameras were donated to San Ignacio, and the town council and business community donated another 22 for that town. Similar donation has been made to Belmopan, and other municipalities are expected to get their cameras in the coming months. The estimated cost of the donation for the countrywide project is estimated at around $675,000. And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Charlie Hutchinson. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, have a happy and safe weekend. Good night.